Anil, do you understand clearly about the importance of delivering on-product service promises?
Not that clearly, ma'am. Can you explain that to me properly?
Definitely. It is a very important segment of the company and customer relationship. Now, the question is, why you think the customer is purchasing from you, since the same commodity may be available in any other shopping outlet which are run by your competitors. This is only due to the reason that the customer values the product or service you provide. This could either be motivated to the customer by the fine service you provide or the fine quality of the product that you manufacture. The customer indirectly put a value to your product or service. This means a huge achievement to your business. Now, value may be from consumption of products or services that a company provides to the customers. This value is equitable to money. For example, if an outlet provides services like getting phones freely recharged, then many customers will visit that outlet to get their phones recharged done quickly. This will enable them to talk to their family and friends. This will make the outlet very popular. Value could arise also from using something else that customer wants to achieve. For example, if the facility to apply for Aadhaar card is available in a single outlet, then most customers will visit that outlet instead of going anywhere else and fill up the necessary forms. Value is not what you provide to the customer. It is always the customer who suggests the value for your business. For example, if we talk about the features of a smartphone, it is what the customer derives from the features. Now, all smartphones have many features and not all of them are of use to all the customers. Some features may appeal or may be of use to some customers and some features may of use to some other customers. So, the value of the smartphone will be valued differently by different sections of the customers.
So, ma'am, value of any commodity or service is always from the point of view of the customer?
Definitely, Anil. It is the customer who decides the value or the worth of the commodity or the service that you or your company may provide. Value is always customer defined. The value of any product is not dependent on the technical and other features you provide in your product or service. It depends on whether the features of any product or services can be used or consumed by the customer. The value also depends on what is the purpose for which the customer is considering your offering. Another important thing about value is that where does this value reside? In the customer's mind. He or she may not even be conscious of the value of the product or service that you are providing. However, if the customer likes the features of your product or service, he or she may put a value on it. So, do you know, Anil, what an entrepreneur or a company can do to put their product or service into value perspective in the mind of the customer?
No, ma'am, not very clearly. What can we as entrepreneur do to put our products or services into value worth in minds of customers?
Well, then let me explain that to you clearly. The question that arises here is, what is the alternative that a company or an entrepreneur can do to put worth to their products or services? From the price-based perspective, you can promote your product or service by advertising that your offerings are cheaper than the competitors. This again leads to commoditization. It is because everyone competes on price as no one is exploring how they are able to differently adding value to their product or service to the customers. The great advantage of adopting value perspective for a product or service is just a clear differentiation or distinguishes between the product and service that you promote from your competitors. Another way of putting value to the product or service that you provide to the customers is by helping customer understand how and how much they benefit. Then you can ask for a share of that benefit from the customers. By this way, you will be able to justify the price or even price at a premium for the product or service that you provide. Now, let me explain to you the value framework for entrepreneurs in regards to customers.
Does this framework work to put value to product or service that entrepreneurs might provide, ma'am?
Definitely. This framework is created just for that purpose. In the screen, you can see the value framework for entrepreneurs. It is divided into 3 parts. First is the value creation. This is where you can create the value for your product or service at the initial stage. For that, you need to check the position of yourself in the marketplace first, then the customer scope, and then the value proposition. The question that arises in the initial stage is, who are you serving and what are your offerings? In the second stage, it is time for the delivery of the value of your product or service. Here, you need to check the operating model of the product or service first so that you can propose the same to the customers. The question that arises here is how you are able to deliver the product or service to the customers. The third stage is set for value capture. This is the time when after you have promoted the product or service to the customers, you can capture or gather the value of your offerings. For this, you need to check the sources of uniqueness of your product or service. The challenge here may come from your competitors as to why won't they copy your ideas or designs. Now comes the part of your creating value to your product or service.
Yes, ma'am. How should we do it?
Let me clarify the value creation part to you broadly. To create value to your product or service, first you need to check who your customers are. Then you need to check what are their characteristics and demographics. Lastly, you need to collect the information as to what problem are they facing. Now, when you try to understand the issues of your customers, you will face some issues yourself. Some of the issues may not even be clearly articulated. To solve this problem, you need to talk to the customers. After understanding the problems or issues of your customers, you need to design or match the product or service that you're offering to resolve their needs. After creating the offerings, you need to check how your offering is addressing the problem faced by customer. Then you will be able to find out how much is your offering worth to the customers. This estimation can be converted into rupee value of your offering along with the services you provide. After the estimation of your offerings into rupee worth, it is now time to check the value delivery to your customers.
Yes, ma'am. I understood. But how should we proceed from this point forward?
Let me explain that to you clearly. How are you going to offer your solution? For this, as we have discussed earlier, how does your product or service stand out from the product or service provided by your competitors? The second thing you need to prove to your customers is how your product or service is different from or superior to the service or products provided by your competitors. While trying to create a value to your product or service, what you always need to keep in mind is that it is less about how do I make money and more about how do I solve the customer's problem. You can also bring in your partners or do partnership business to create products or service to bring up the value of your offerings. Now, let's learn how to capture the value of products or service from the customers.
Yes, ma'am. Please explain that to me.
Value capture comes from first delivery value to the customers. To capture the value, just check that. Does your solution fit into the customer's context? This will include access, mindset, location, culture, and probably geography too of your customers. Next, you need to prove the uniqueness of your business to your customers. By this way, you will be able to explain to them as to what stops your competitors from copying your business. Exclusivity, service, and solution are some of the modes of uniqueness of service or products. If you work keeping these factors in mind, you will be able to capture a part of the value created for the product or service that you provide. This product or service will showcase in rupees terms how much value is created. The price charged is a part of the value created. Customers then will themselves be able to notice how your offerings are different from other pricing models. Price is always linked to how much value you are creating for customers. You can then de-link your product or service from cost, competitors' pricing, margin expectations after the value is created for your offerings. By this way, the value of your offerings will be priced higher in the market. Now, let's check some value elements that you can create for products.
Yes, ma'am. How can we promote products to create value for them?
For products, you need to check the basic elements including the product's features. For example, for the sale of a solar lantern, you can promote it as having no recurring cost, no maintenance, no smoke or danger of fire. By this way, you can create value for the product. In the field of service, the value elements can be created by promoting what is additional to the product. In the same example of the solar lantern, you can create value element by providing free demonstration to understand use and additional benefits like lifetime warranty. In partnership business, value elements can be created by a combination of offerings provided by each partners. This will enable and further enhance creation of solutions for customers. In the example of the solar lantern, you and your partners can advertise it as how it can also work as a mobile phone recharger. Now, let's check how value elements can be transformed to value added.
I believe that promoting the product itself will add value to it.
Well, there are something more. Let me tell you more. To transform value elements to value addition, you need to first understand the customer segment. This is because different segments or groups of customers value different features of a product or service. Which value elements matter to which segments needs to be mapped. After that, you can deliver the product or service which will add value to it. Beside this, you also need to make the customers aware that because of their needs, the extra effort was made to create the product or service. By this, the customers will understand the value being provided by the business. You can promote this needs requirement by communicating in the form of a pitch that identifies the customer's problem and the solution being offered. As soon as the customer understands the value of the product or the service, you can immediately capture the value of your offerings. The communication ends with putting rupee value to the value created, and you can ask for a small share of that in the form of a premium price. This will be your profit.
How can we take our products or services to the Common Service Center for promotion, ma'am?
You can apply to the CSC or the Common Service Center by identifying a few factors. First of all, who is your customer? Are they farmers, students, small businessmen, or others? Then find out what their problem is. Is it lack of information, lack of service, timely help, connecting with multiple services or providers or others? Next, what is your offering to their problems? Can you provide them with government services, other services through CSC, any other products, services and partnerships that can solve the customer's problem? When you will have an answer or solution to these questions, you can capture the value of your product or service. Next is, who is your competitor for each of your important offering? How are you adding value for your offerings which are better than your competitors? Finally, how are you communicating these to your customers?
This was indeed a valuable discussion on value for products or services, Divya ma'am. Thank you so much.
As always, you're most welcome, Anil.